Hi guys, welcome to this video. I do not have a plan of what I'm gonna say. I just wanted to talk a little bit about my belief in God and how that came about after not being a Christian, not believing in all that stuff, and in fact having negative views on it and like stereotypes about it and all this stuff. But it has completely, let me rephrase that. Jesus has completely changed my life and the course of my life and my priorities and my strength and my love and the hope that is present in my life, in my chest, at all moments somehow. Even in my worst moments, I don't feel empty like I used to. And I pray that nobody feels offended or discouraged by what I'm sharing, in the sense of maybe you have like challenges with believing in God or your faith or any of these things. I pray that somehow talking about my experience and just some things that I feel like the Holy Spirit may be kind of guiding me to talk about will be positive and not just inspiring in the sense of like be like me, more so inspiring for your own life and knowing that God has a plan for you and that you are not a mistake on this planet. And just knowing that to the depths of your core so that you can fight off the lies of the enemy that can often, when we believe them, make us feel like we are unloved or unloved by God, or that all of this is meaningless. And the truth is that none of that is true, and you can almost feel it in your soul and in your bones. I remember when I sort of was like going through my teen years, I really was questioning just life in general. Why we're here, why I'm here, why God would let such horrible things happen if he's real. Then just like not appreciating God, and on top of that just maybe not even believing that God is real. And just that feeling is so confusing and dark, essentially, that coming into my faith now, I can see how different I feel, in the sense of it all makes sense now, even if I don't have all the answers, versus nothing made sense before. And that all came through a process of, that's a long story, but like essentially praying to God, asking for forgiveness about things that I felt ashamed of, not things that I felt like I should just apologize for in order to be forgiven, but things I deeply felt ashamed of, that a lot of people, like told me with good intentions, like it's okay and all this stuff, which was very kind, but it didn't reach the depths of my soul that I needed it to. And so I started reading the Bible, and it was just mind-blowing what I was reading. And sometimes I didn't like it, but you can't fight the truth. And I know a lot of people will like fight it and find loopholes and whatnot. But the more you read the Bible, the more you realize there aren't loopholes. And if you're looking for loopholes, you're gonna find that. But the more I read it, the more I realize it is portraying a truth that surpasses human understanding sometimes, most of the time. And when I tell you that I got this hope that hasn't left me since, it was from that day of pure agony, of feeling like my soul was not where it was meant to be and not knowing what to do about it. And I had searched everywhere, far and wide, all the people, I searched everything except for Jesus. And now I understand why Jesus is the way and the truth and the life, and why it's important to listen for his voice and gaze upon his light and not at the darkness of this world or the darkness of even just within ourselves. You know, that we know that kind of saying, we are what we eat, we are what we consume. That includes food, music, content, everything. We don't even realize the depth that this goes to. And spending time with Jesus is a form of like consuming. And I've come to realize that spending time with Jesus is the best way to soothe my soul. And during that time as a teenager where I did not have faith and I was completely disconnected, I did a lot of things that I regret, and I felt empowered in it, during it, and I didn't feel like I was doing anything that wrong, and I don't beat myself up about it. But mostly because I've been able to process it and heal it through self-reflecting and in the safe space that Jesus provides. You can talk with him day and night. It's free. I went to therapy and it was really effective for learning, for being self-reflective and learning kind of new perspectives and everything. It was. I will still go to therapy in my life. I'm not saying I'm just writing all that off. I am a science-based person, but I've come to understand that science is just uncovering God's design that is already here. And praise be to God for giving us everything that is in front of our eyes and within our bodies and our emotions. And we just need to learn. We just need to understand that there is an order to it. And I just feel like as humans, we have come to this place where we feel so prideful and full of ourselves that we don't need anything. And then we wonder why we feel so empty and scared. And the honest truth that I've come to understand is that God doesn't permit evil because he is punishing us, or that he has his control on that. I've come to understand that evil is simply a lack of God. Not that God can not do everything, but so it's not God lacking in any way. It's God gave us free will, and people choose to shut him out. The source of light and all things good and our Creator and the one who loves us most, even more than our friends and family. Not that they don't love us. I love them, they love me, and it's a beautiful thing. But guess what? God did that. God gave us our friends. God gave us our family. God gave us our eyes and our ears and our hands and our voices to use them for good. And I'm not judging anyone for this, and I often do this myself, but it says in the Bible that, oh, I'm so bad. It says, the power of life and death are in the tongue. The words that we speak matter so much. And we've just become so used to being able to talk and say what's on our mind, and we don't even sometimes realize where those thoughts are coming from. Whew. And oftentimes they're not the truth. Something I've learned many things in the Bible, and I would like to share one day some of the things that I've learned, just because I think there's so many misconceptions about some things that are said in the Bible that when you actually analyze them and realize what it's saying and not just assuming the worst, it's so beautiful. And when you apply it to your life, I don't know how to explain that it just feels right. And yes, maybe that's just me. Or yes, that is God's guidance. But one thing I learned, just one, is about complaining and groaning. Whoa, and I do this all the time still. But let me tell you, since learning about that, I have been more self-aware of it. And grumbling and complaining instantly puts our bodies and our minds into a worse mood. And I found that when I have limited this, it has caused me to be more grateful. It has caused me to be more aware of what I'm sharing with others, not because I'm afraid of what they will think, but just being more aware of my role in creating a certain emotional climate in a group. And that goes so deep in the power of how we show up in the world, how we show up for ourselves, how we show up for God every day. God has a plan for us every day, and the thing is that we can choose to just do whatever we want and not even acknowledge his presence in our life. And that's how I lived for a very long time. I would wonder about it, but I hadn't let him in and have opened myself up to being corrected by him. And that's a hard lesson too. But the thing is about God is we have the perfect example of who God is. And that is Jesus. And with that being the case, being corrected by God is not a punishment. It is such a blessing. And when we refuse to learn and grow and acknowledge sort of where we're at, it makes it really hard to make changes in our lives that we may not even be aware of has so many benefits in our lives. And I still have so much work to do, and I am grateful for that even. I'm grateful to know that I am an imperfect person in an imperfect world that has been lucky enough to know God in his loving tenderness and care for humanity, and understanding that he wants good for people, and that we are the ones that can bring goodness, peace, understanding, grace, forgiveness, all of his amazing attributes. We are the ones that can pray to him to help us become more like him, so that his kingdom can come and be on earth. Because this is a really dark planet. But unfortunately, that's not God's fault. That is actually our own fault for... Well, no, I'm not even going to blame us. Obviously, I believe in the devil, which is like hard to explain. But in essence, it's just evil and the source of evil. And we have become way too comfortable allowing evil thoughts into our minds, which go into our hearts. And from our hearts come our words and our actions. And I still have to check myself, like, every day. And I still make mistakes, and I stumble, and I fall. But knowing that I can go back to God for... Like, I don't want my source to be from this world. It literally states it in the Bible that this world is ruled by Satan. And everyone blames God, yet he still allows the sun to shine down on us every day, and he still gives us blessings in our life. And most people give him zero credit. And he's still willing to give mercy and forgiveness, and it's just never ending. And it's literally never ending. That does not give me permission to go and do whatever I want. That gives me permission to know that I am loved. That gives me permission to know that even when I fall and make mistakes, I can be open about those mistakes and honest about how I feel about making those mistakes, and be curious to know how I can understand God's character better, so that I can it sounds simple, but spend time with him. But it's so much more than that. You are who you spend time with. I'm not saying I'm God, that's not what I'm saying. But I just mean, the circle that you surround yourself with is kind of who you become, who you act like, the things that you're interested in, like all these things. And that can be a positive thing, and it can also be a negative thing. I also, I part of what I study in school are like domains of health. And there literally are many more than this, but the 5 that we focus on are social, physical, emotional, cognitive, and spiritual well-being, all of which were given to us by God. But spirituality is a domain of health, and it doesn't get... There's not a lot of understanding of the spiritual realm, because we cannot see it. Just like our cognition, just like our emotions, it might come out at times, but it's not something that we can see all the time with our eyes. And people are like, I'll see it, I'll believe it when I see it. Do you not have eyes to see everything all around you? You are seeing it. You are looking at it. I realized my pride, and it was a beautiful journey to learn humility, and people will call that oppression or what have you. But when I look back on being free to do whatever I wanted, yet then I couldn't break out of those chains, such as like spending too much on going out, drinking and partying, and there's so many things. Like, I don't want to like waste a bunch of time talking about all the bad things I've done. However, I think it's important that I acknowledge that I am far from perfect, and God met me in my deep imperfection, not from me becoming some perfect person. And then being like, okay, God, I'm good enough for you. He came to me I felt like disgusting and hopeless. And he came to me there, fully. Not just from above, not just like, hey, I'm here. He met me there. And I felt his forgiveness. And I felt the relief come off my shoulders that I don't need to pretend anymore that I'm happy with the way my life's going. And I don't need to, even though I was stuck in the same cycles and patterns and habits, he was gonna help me. And he did help me. That's the crazy thing. And I just remember that one day I was not a Christian, the next day I was. I remember that day and feeling this. That day is a whole other story, and I would love to get into it, but there was a time where I was like deep in, I didn't even realize I was praying, but I was, and I felt this relief and this love and forgiveness envelop me. But it's because I let him in. And I slowly but surely started trusting him more and more from there. And it wasn't until, honestly, like years later that I realized what happened in that moment. That Jesus died for my sins. In that moment, again, I wasn't pre-planning this. It took me a while of reading and understanding and reflecting and praying to understand that in that moment, Jesus switched places with me. Not because I deserved it or earned it, but because he loves me. He took my shame, my sorrow, and my hopelessness. He took it upon himself, and in return, he gave me hope and love and forgiveness. And now that lives inside of me. Instead of my shame, instead of my unbelief in God, I have total belief in God. Nothing will ever compare to that, and it's really hard to explain that to people who haven't experienced it. And it's so hard to even just say, Jesus loves you, without getting people like riled up. And I used to also feel that way, and I think it made me really angry, and I would always associate people like that to like pushing their religion onto me, or just wanting me to think the way that they do, and like trying to take over the earth or something like that. Which, by the way, is literally another religion, not Christianity. Won't even go there. But what Jesus has taught me about love and patience and God's love for humanity, I can't explain it in this video, and it's a personal experience and journey for everyone. But just know that there was a time where I was completely disconnected and afraid. And it's weird because I still feel like depression and anxiety sometimes, but the Lord strengthens me. I'm not leaning on my own power, which is like literally nothing. The more I lean on him, the more I can do somehow. The more I can trust him, the more steps I can take, the more risks I can take in good faith and wisdom. And I do wish for people to know Jesus, because he is the way and the truth and the life. And I understand now why no one can come to the Father except through him. Because he is a reflection of what God actually is. Nothing else in this world is. Nothing. Other than, sorry, I shouldn't say that. Things that are in the Bible are experienced by everyday people. And what it says in the Bible that people experience match up whether they're Christian or not, whether they identify as being Christian or not. Things like love and kindness and compassion and forgiveness and helping the oppressed, not by looking down upon them, but being with them and lifting them up. Whether that be like emotional hardship, financial hardship, like there are so many people in this world who really need our help, and the devil is really good at distracting us from what's really important in life. And I say all of this to just bring about an invitation to spend time with Jesus. This doesn't have to be just in a church or an impersonal thing. Like, he is personal. He does know. And he wants the best for you. And anything that you feel like you are not doing that's good enough to be loved by him, is the sin that is making you feel. It's really hard to explain. The devil will get you to do something that then makes you feel stuck and ashamed, so that you feel like God doesn't love you. And since we have free will, we can believe that. But it's not true. The devil is full of lies. And Jesus is full of truth. So if you seek him, he will lighten your load. He will lighten your burden. He may convict you to stop doing certain things, but that's only because he has good plans for you, and maybe something that you're doing or some things that you're doing are holding you back from living your purpose, which is bigger than you. It was given to you. And it's so hard to find it in the darkness of ourselves. God has given it to us. And I have much more I could say on this, but I challenge you to open the door to Jesus and just leave the door open. He won't be intense unless you want him to be. And he will meet you where you're at. And he will comfort you. And I need him every hour of every day. So there's no shame in going to him, as you should go to him more often than not. And just see what happens. But I'm telling you, if you go, nothing's happened yet, and you walk away, that's your choice. It's not always easy to be in the presence of such a bright light. But as you spend more time with him, and his light starts filling you, you'll begin to understand. And I just pray that this video made sense. I pray that it touched you on the other side of this camera. I pray that all of the perceptions that you have about religion can be put aside just for a chance to understand that Jesus can be with you. Jesus. I knew him as a child. I think that's why I have such a clear understanding that some of our stereotypes of religion versus who Jesus actually is very contrasting. But I knew him as a child, and I could pray to him all the time, and he honestly always comforted me. And as a teenager, I didn't accept him as being the one. And that honestly caused a lot of problems for me. And I'm so passionate about this because I see so many people in hardship and despair, and they have no hope. That's why I talk about it. And it might annoy some people, and other people might have needed to hear it, even if it was just for a little bit of light to come into their life. But I'm telling you, he can just be there. And it's a process. It's literally a therapeutic relationship with God. So I'm just going to leave it there. And thank you for listening. I pray for you. I pray the blood of Jesus over you. I pray that you feel courageous enough to break out of the chains that are stopping you from letting his light in. I pray that the fear and the darkness that has been cast into you and upon you from the enemy is expelled by Jesus' bright light coming into your life. And I pray that you continuously search for him, you continuously seek him, you continuously seek his forgiveness and his love for you and his guidance for your life and his purity and his pure heart and intentions to fill us up with love and hope that surpasses all understanding. Other people question why certain people can be so at peace in craziest of circumstances. And it's not through me, but it's through him. I pray that over you. I pray that you go at your own pace, but also challenge yourself to increase your understanding and to increase your faith and to increase your love for him. And you will not regret it. Good night. Or good day, whenever you're watching this.